Hey guys, this is Justin with the Entertainment Outlet, and I'm here with Brendon Small, the legendary creator of Metalocalypse, home movies, frontman guitar player of Dethklok. Happy to have you here today, Brendan. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks for having me. It's good to talk to you.
Yeah, great to have you here. So Dethklok was my first introduction to death metal, nearly 20 years ago now. I was always more into, thrash metal, Metallica, Maiden, the sort of classics. I was a little familiar with In Flames, but Dethklok was my first like real introduction to the genre, which was so funny as, the sort of comedy approach to it.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
and I'm sure that a lot of people sort of came to the genre through that aspect. But I remember at the time, a friend of mine said, if you like them, the band that's closest to them is Amon Amarth. You should check those guys out. And so it was a couple years later, I remember driving across South Dakota, just like listening to Amon Amarth over and over. And then a few years later, I see them the first time. I was like, oh, that could be Toki up there.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
Absolutely.
so
Yeah.
all these years later, I'm super excited that you guys are coming out on the same stage, the AMONKLOK Conquest Tour.
Yeah.
So what sort of interactions have you had with them over the years? And does this pairing feel as right to you as it does to me?
No, I mean this to me is like we're looking for that sweet spot Goldilocks perfect co-headliner, And the Baby Clock was great because that kind of embodied the idea, the philosophy that I thought would be great for like if we're building a tour with Dethklok, who would be a good person that has a good audience, that has a theatrical nature to what they do live, right?
Right?
Baby metal completely. It's ridiculous. They're
Yeah.
dancing in like laser tag outfits. They're like three princesses doing martial arts moves on stage and singing while there are blast beats going on and just crazy sweep arpeggios and lunatic guitar playing all happening. So I thought, okay, that's perfect. And then Amon Amarth, I was like, of course, yes, that would be the greatest thing. And to me, this is like heavy metal Disneyland. This is like
Right.
the most fun you're gonna have. It's gonna be
Absolutely.
the happiest place on earth. It's ridiculous, and the most brutal place on earth, all at the same time. Because the I've gotten to, we're so lucky to have the audience that we have that's so engaged and so excited to be at the Death Clock shows. From like, because it's like somewhere between Comic Con and a death metal show at the same time. You get all this excitement, cosplay, just fun, mosh pits, and then we get to like kind of hypnotize the audience with our fast moving images, our Gene Hoglan, and all the playing and stuff on stage. So to me, we're really proud of our show that we do, and we want to show it to as many people, and we want to keep on keeping it alive and mixing it up each time we go out. And in this case, we're celebrating 20 years of Metalocalypse, and we want to celebrate the whole oeuvre from the Doomstar Requiem to Army of the Doomstar, from the first episode to the second season or the third season. There's so much stuff inside of there that we want to show, and then like we want to also surprise people with some really crazy deep cuts that we've never played live before.
Yep.
But yeah, that pairing that with people like Amon Amarth, who have this really gorgeous, cool stage show that they have. We just want people to like spend their money in the best possible way, where you're gonna have a show where you watch each band. You want to show up when the show starts. It's not like just some opener who's just kind of filling up space. We have
Right.
Castle, and Castle is really cool. They're gaining so much kind of momentum right now anyway, but to have them on our show is very cool. Um, and then for you to stick around to Amon Amarth and us and all that stuff, we just want you to spend your dollar right. And I don't think you're gonna have more fun than this show this year, really. That's our like we believe this. Me and Gene Hogan, we're so excited to show people our show who have seen it already. Like ro ride the roller coaster again. You're gonna realize there are more different twists and turns this time. Or your first time seeing it ever, you're going to remember this night.
Right.
That's what we want to do is do something memorable. In this world of disposable garbage bullshit that we live in, can we have something that's nice?
Yeah,
Can we
absolutely. I can't think of a better tour this year that's you're getting more bang for your buck.
Yeah, seriously. That is really like I think like I'm a producer and I have to be like I really do think when I attach my name to something that it has to be something that's kind of got a really good level of quality to it. Even though it's this crazy comedy death metal world, like I really want it to be a high quality thing. And I want the show to be like to put, you know, really big, huge, expensive shows just blow them out of the water. We're really competitive and we really have fun doing our show. So we can't wait to do it.
Going back a little bit to the earlier days of Dethklok and Metalocalypse, I noticed a bit of a change in the style between Death albums one and two, and
Oh yeah.
especially in the vocals. On the
Yeah.
first album, it very much sounded like this is Nathan's voice singing, and then the second album, it didn't quite sound like his talking voice.
Right.
And so I was wondering, what did you go through to refine your technique? I mean, you hear stories of, bands that go out on tour first time, they blow their voice out, and so then they learn how
Right.
to,
Yeah.
actually, sort of safely sing like that. And I was just wondering, is that sort of the process you went through?
Well, what I notice is that when you're kind of low down, I mean, because on Death Album One, like I hadn't really tried it out live, really, not in any kind of real way. I had it recorded, and then we went out and started kind of some early goes at touring, which were like just about getting the picture and and us on stage together, and it was like there were a bunch of really sometimes it worked great and sometimes each venue was a little different and the whole idea was how do we just keep on fixing this. I was noticing that vocals were like I was getting like I don't think I can get my voice above that. Pinching and doing a little bit more kind of like scream inside of it was making a little bit more sense, and so I would start experimenting with that, and I also realized it's gonna have to be an evolution. The same evolution happens in voiceover acting too. If you listen to Homer Simpson's voice
Of
in the first season of The Simpsons, it's going to sound different than Homer Simpson now.
course.
Happens in every single voice. You start like at one pitch and you go to a lower, and voices get lower as they get older, and all that stuff kind of happens. So I said, "Fuck it, man." Whatever the evolution of this is going to be like, I'm going to start with the same DNA, and it's going to mutate in one way or another. And each time you write a song, you've also like I can't do that song. I've already written it, so I have to write something that's new that will pair with that song and not a recopy of that old song. So what can I keep doing to creatively push the ball forward musically and to maintain what I think the DNA, the real core DNA of it is. So that is like you're right to notice that stuff. And it continued kind of changing. And then even on Death Album 4, I noticed that I had kind of gotten smarter about my technique because I just wanted longer notes and I had to kind of understand how to use, my voice better. So it changes. It's like it's an evolution, that it just keeps evolving.
How did it feel after, the success of the show, to have developed your own signature guitars with Epiphone? I mean, I can't think of another TV show that has spawned two guitars.
It's great. Well, there are also two Gibson guitars too. So there's the Gibson Flying V first. The Gibson's the Thunder Horse guitar, the Silver Burst.
Right.
And then the Epiphones came out. And then I developed a third one, which is the Ghost Horse, which is the so I have five guitars I got to develop
My
with
mistake.
an Epiphone, yeah. But of course it's the coolest thing in the world. I mean, seriously, this whole thing is like basically Metalocalypse is kind of an exercise in creating the ultimate job for myself, where I get to be a comedy writer, I get to be funny, and I get to play sweep arpeggios. How do I do that? And then how do I get smart about kind of pairing with big companies like Gibson or Marshall or what have you,
Hmm.
and kind of like, I fought to get all those products on in the show.
Right.
I thought there's going to be a kid like me who's like discovering guitar and looking and see because I know people like open Kiss albums go Kiss only plays the best and we use Gibsons and that's why we use DiMarzio pickups and that's why we use Marshall amp. Like I know how all that inside baseball stuff gets inside of your brain if you're starting to like to start having a relationship with creativity and music and comedy or whatever it is. Like you just want to all that meticulous little side stuff I knew appealed to me. And since I really genuinely thought my audience is me when I was 14 discovering heavy metal, listening to Slayer for the first time, listening to King Diamond and Metallica and you know all that stuff and discovering Yngwie Malmsteen and all that shit that I just thought was just like, I can't believe if I hadn't met this one friend, my buddy, who's still my good buddy, if I hadn't met him, I don't know who the hell I would be because he was the one that showed me one afternoon everything.
Right.
Everything. Like she showed me everything from like even like Led Zeppelin, classic rock stuff that I didn't have a cool older sister who like I mean I had a sister, but she didn't listen to heavy metal. She was listening to like the radio, like I was. And for me to understand that and then go to like discover Van Halen through all this stuff and discover all these great guitar lunatics, Joe Satriani, Steve Vai, all these people who would become my heroes. That was the ultimate gift. So I thought that space of me discovering and stuff was such an exciting part of, again, if you're a teenager, if you're like 13, 14, you've got nothing, you've got no money. It's not your room you're sleeping in, really. It's your parents' room. You're living on borrowed everything. They feed you. You have no control of anything. But what you listen to gives you a sense of control.
Absolutely.
You get to carve out your personality through your decision making, right? And that to me was like the most powerful I'd ever felt. So, how can I, that kid's my audience. And that's what the show was for a kid who was discovering like Monty Python like I was, and discovering Spinal Tap like I was, and discovering, absurdist comedy and shit like that. So that's what I thought when I was coming with the show.
Remember years ago you did that thing with the School of Rock kids in
Oh
Foxborough?
yeah.
I was
Yeah.
at that show. That was fun.
Oh
Watch you
yeah,
guys play
yeah.
Hocus Pocus.
Oh yeah, that's a fun song to play,
Yeah.
man. So crazy. You could just go and go and go. Yeah, I did a lot of stuff with those kids. That was fun. There was a time where Scott, Ian, and I were doing kind of like band camp things together, and we had a really good time. There's something, I mean, it's seeing like a bunch of like gangly like 14-year-olds play their guitars is just like it's just like the genesis of heavy metal,
Right.
right? It's kind of always alive when the next generation is kind of picking up their instruments for the first time and getting in the garage and
Absolutely.
working it out,
Right.
working out the kinks, making it work. So
Yep.
very fun and exciting stuff. Lots of energy there.
Definitely. So when you're at home and you're playing guitar, if you're just playing for fun, you're not necessarily focusing on writing, you're just playing for fun. And what's the first guitar you grab, and what are you gonna jam on?
Well, I've got a lot of guitars here. I have been cycling through a couple different ones. I do play my Gibson Explorers all the time. I have this guitar over here that I play often, but I also incorporate this in the show. This is Jason Richardson Music Man that I got some
Okay.
custom colors on. And it's just, it's a six string. I have it tuned to C. I love the way it plays. I love the way it feels. It's very expressive. If I want to get dynamic with it and quiet,
Yep.
I can. If I want to get loud and aggressive with it, I can as well. But that's on my stand right next to me. I've also got one of these really cool guitars that I love playing. I've played it live before too. One of these like Tosin Abasi
Okay.
Animal
Yep.
Leaders Abasi guitars. I love this guitar.
Nice.
Um, I also have a Joe Satriani guitar right here, and I've got tons. I mean, I could keep dragging guitars into this, but I usually kind of keep to one that's kind of in the, especially since, right now. I mean, I play my guitar all the time to make sure that you have to stay in good shape. You
Of
can't
course.
like go away from this stuff and come back to it. So I have to have my right hand in good shape, and I've just been kind of like this whole year, I took kind of took the whole engine apart and cleaned it and put it back together and getting back into like posture and all that stuff, which really helps you, especially when you're doing like kind of grueling shows. I'm playing constantly throughout these shows and it's perpetual motion. So you have to be in control of your muscles and be able to lighten up, and just be able to send those messages like, take it easy, take it easy. Watch Yngwie Malmsteen's right hand. He's cutting butter with a hot knife. He's totally in control. He's hardly touching the strings. He's hardly touching the pick. All that stuff, I have to constantly remind myself, 'cause when you're live playing guitar, your body's in one way or another electrocuting itself out of nerves, out of excitement. And you have to go, okay, through this electrocution, I have to relax, gain control, be mindful, and constantly be sending messages to myself. So that kind of stuff I'm doing all the time. But I play all the time. Like in between these interviews today, I sit here and I turn on my amp and I put on a metronome and I run scales and I go, remember, take it easy, right hand. Remember, be on point. Remember, you don't need to be like on the side of your fingers, be on the top of my simple things that have been going on forever. But I have to just always remember that those rules are rules because it makes the architecture of your finger and your body work in conjunction with the instrument. I want my shows to be good. I want the playing to be really, really tight as hell. So I keep trying to raise the bar with what I think is acceptable.
I think it shows. as we close in on about 3 years since Death Album 4 came out, I was a little surprised when there was another tour announcement when it seemed like there wasn't really much going on in the Dethklok Metalocalypse world. Is there anything new on the horizon? Can we look forward to Mermaid or 4? Or are we sending guitar picks to some company to get another season or movie or something happening? What do we got?
It's kind of funny. There's like you know the crazy thing that I'm learning is that by me becoming the proprietor of this live entity, which is something I didn't expect to do at all. In fact, I thought we'd probably do a tour, but then we kind of developed an infrastructure and a world, and we started kind of trying to open up the map more. Like I said, we went to Australia for the first time this year. We went to Europe for the first time this year, and we're noticing that there's an appetite for this project. And whether or not we end up making new stuff or not, we are finding that people are showing up for it. Now, because I'm keeping it alive, there is a little bit more, it's a little bit more in the zeitgeist. So the possibility of doing stuff kind of opens up a little bit more.
Yeah,
So there are like, conversations in place where I think, what would the next iteration of this thing be? And I think, well, what I'd love to do is just be funny for a while, be able to have the music happen, but also just be able to have these characters just kind of hang out and talk to each other. So I guess you could say that this promo that we did with Johan for the AMONKLOK Conquest, where you see them in the boardroom, is a bit of a proof of concept for a life beyond what we've been doing. So we just have to kind of convince the right people. And by us going out and doing this stuff, we're kind of showing them that there's an audience there who can't get this particular kind of entertainment anywhere else. No other TV show gives them this kind of cross section of entertainment and music
absolutely.
way. So that's kind of part of it too. I really do think there's a lot more meat on the bone in this project. I also think we are also, it's 20 years since we started this thing, and the fact that our audience has kind of gotten younger throughout the years is also crazy too. So I mean, our last couple tours, we've seen people who are way younger than our audience in 2007 when we were
Right.
going. So yeah, I do think about all that stuff. It's not, this is such a different project than a band, than like, any other band that can make a record or do we kind of have to do everything. We have to do like, the last thing I did wasn't just a record. It was a movie and it was a record and it was another record. It was a whole score album too that has tons of guitar playing on it and tons of music on it that we, spent all this time on. So it's not just one thing. It's like we have to work harder than everybody else to just maintain a reason. So and then to keep the reason alive. So that's part of that's part all the reasons why we're here today.
Well, you mentioned earlier, that you're going to pull out some deep cuts on this tour.
Yeah.
I just want to throw out a suggestion. If Nathan needs a rest in his voice, that maybe Pickles comes out and you guys play "Kill You." I think that would be a fun one
Really
to see.
interesting. Yeah. That is such a crazy song that even got on a record. This is also, when you were talking about like we were talking about the early records and how one sounded different from the other. That first record, there's, 21 songs on that record. And also it was me going like, this is my only shot to make a record.
Right.
I'm gonna cram everything that I can possibly cram into it and kill you. It's so funny. I've heard people bring that song up more lately than ever. I always thought it was a cool little pop song that
No.
that kind of had nothing to do with Dethklok,
Right.
but I just wrote it one day and I was like, I kind of like this song. I think it's cool. And Gene was like, I like that song a lot. And I was like, all right, Gene likes it. Let's put it on the record. It's just, I guess at the end of the day, it's just like me sitting with the guitar and whatever idiotic thing that I think is appeals to my taste somehow ends up inside of this project in one way
Right.
or another.
My buddy Ron wanted me to ask, in this world of, reboots and everything, is there ever a shot that there could be a home movies revival?
I mean, it's a good question. I really enjoy doing home movies, and the great thing about home movies in its timeline, we got to start the show and we got to finish the show while we were still in that headspace of home movies. We really enjoyed doing it. In fact, I was so protective of the show that I had to make Metalocalypse feel like it didn't even come from the same brain.
For sure.
I did that as an act of protection because I really thought because home movies is personal for me. The character is named after me. It has a lot to do with how I grew up. And I loved what I really, really enjoyed and what I would love to do again is to take some actors that can improvise on the level of like a John Benjamin or something like that and hang out in a room because we clicked in very, very unique ways that were in my mind what I hear a lot of improv and comedy and stuff, and I hear people that kind of break the rules, and it just ends up not working as well. And the rules that we set for ourselves in home movies, we adhered to them pretty strongly, and there was a lot of saying no more than saying yes. But when we get in the same room and get that kind of core team together, something would happen we'd provoke each other all the time. That was really fun. So there's a point where I'd go like, yeah, I'd like to take all those techniques and do something. I don't know if it'd be home movies, but it would be something, along those lines. So that's what I always think is like, do something new.
Right.
I know it's like Reboot City, and I think the world's getting tired of Reboot City, you know?
For sure.
I think this lets people go to the movies. They're like, okay, Marvel's coming back. Okay, I'll skip this one, or I just see that like I think taking IP and reconstituting it um yields fewer engagement.
That's fair.
I think people are less interested in narratives, also because of taking an IP and only telling this much story over 9 episodes, where you're just kind of vamping and waiting and vamping for the story to happen. And I tap out of so many TV shows for those reasons because it's our job really to entertain in the moment. And if you're not doing that, then you're breaking a bond with the audience.
Right.
So I don't know. I don't know if that's any
No,
more of a philosophy, I guess.
I like it. So lastly, what's over the years, what's been one of your favorite Dethklok songs to play live on stage?
Oh, you know what? Plenty of, I mean, inside of each song is something that's usually difficult for me to do. Like there's like doing my vocals and doing the song at the same time. There's usually something where I have to just be in deep, deep concentration to like make sure, like from a song like Castratocron to like, even the Death theme, I have to be in total, like those are not the hardest songs to play on guitar, but adding vocals and counting and all this shit that I have to do to kind of make sure it kind of lands. The one song that's always kind of fun to play is Thunder Horse.
Yeah,
Thunder,
definitely.
like, I mean, it's got a lot of guitar treachery, but there's something a little bit more. It's just right in my wheelhouse that, like, if you grab me and I haven't warmed up, I can probably get through it pretty cleanly, Normally I have to warm up a long time, but if you like, that's the song that I think is like just always fun to play. It feels good on my fingers.
Right.
From the vibrato to the sweep arpeggios to all the treacherous kind of like, you know, legato riffs on the low end and all that stuff. Pretty fun. So I think that's my answer is that.
All right. Love it. Can't wait to hear it. We got the AMONKLOK Conquest Tour coming to a city near you. I'll be in Boston. Can't wait for it.
Can't wait to see you there.
Thank you so much, Brendan.
Absolutely, man. Thanks for taking an interest.
Of course. Take care.
All right, I'll see you.